Riding in a group is a great way to benefit your cycle training and also add in that variety. You've obviously got company which can make that cycling easier, and as a result you can go further, and hopefully it all just becomes a bit more fun.
Yeah, but you don't want to ruin that by upsetting or annoying any of your fellow cyclists. So today we put together a nice list of things that you want to avoid when cycling in a group.
This is one of the most important things to get right. If you're running late, it's not just going to affect you and put stress on yourself, it's also just going to mean you're going to set off on the wrong foot with the group that you're riding with. So even if they know that you're coming, they aren't necessarily going to be waiting for, say, 10 minutes. So if you know it's a 9 a.m. group ride, make sure you get there with plenty of time, because 9 a.m. is 9 a.m. and they will be gone. So arrive a little bit early with a few minutes to spare, so if you need to make any tweaks or just so you're comfortable and you're not going to be chasing them off from the start.
I know I'm a few minutes late, but are we good?
Good timing, Mark.
And that leads me nicely on to our next point, and that is knowing where the group is planning to go. Now, this is particularly important if you end up finding you're split up from the group, perhaps due to junctions or traffic lights. And by knowing where they're planning to go will hopefully give you the best chance of being able to regroup with them. And it's particularly important if you don't know the area that well and may not know your way home. Also, if you end up getting a puncture or mechanical, well, you obviously hope that the group would wait for you. But if they don't, or they don't notice, again, gives yourself the best chance of catching back up with them and being able to find your way home. And then there is also just the fact of maybe you got dropped, perhaps on a climb. And if they haven't noticed, well, you could find yourself in a bit of a pickle and perhaps even lost. Now, I would add to that, if you are out on just a nice, easy Sunday cruisy ride with your group and you end up getting dropped and they don't wait for you, you might want to consider, is that the right group for you anyway?
So punctures can happen. It's entirely understandable when riding in a group, but make sure you're prepared. If you were out for a solo ride, you'd obviously have all of your spares, like a spare inner, your tyre levers and a pump of some sort. So if you're riding with others, you still need the same kit. And if it does happen, then the group, I'm sure, will stop and wait, but don't expect them to be changing it for you. And if the worst comes to worst and you get a pinch when you're trying to quickly get your tyre back on, it's a good idea to have a second set of spares, but I'm sure you can ask for a favour and borrow one, just make sure you replace that. And also, talking of replacing, if you've used your own, make sure when you get home you replace those, because you don't want to be in that panic situation when you realise actually the spare inner tube you thought you had is one that already has a puncture in it. And nutrition is equally important. Make sure you've got enough hydration and fuel to last you for the ride, and maybe a little bit more if you're not exactly sure what you've got in store, because there's nothing worse than running out of water and having to borrow from someone or asking for some food, or even getting to the stage where you're bonking and the whole rest of the group's got to slow down to try and keep up at your pace where you're struggling along. Now this one is a clear red flag. Don't turn up to ride with a group with your own individual agenda. By signing up to a group ride means you're basically signing up and accepting that whatever is in the plans for the group are your plans for the day. So you don't want to be the person that's riding along and mid-ride suddenly says, oh, I've got to go off and do some intervals right now. It won't go down well. The same with sprinting off the front or going hard on the climbs. You basically just want to ride with everybody else and make everyone else's experience as enjoyable as yours.
And although group riding should be fun, it should also be safe for everyone in the group. So there's a few golden rules that you want to abide by if you want to be invited back to a group ride. So above all, it's keeping your pace nice and consistent, especially if you're riding on the front of the group and kind of driving and dictating that pace. But also if you are on the front of that group, then you actually have the added responsibility of pointing out any hazards to others in that group, which we'll get onto in just a minute.
Yeah, and in a group, positioning is really important as well, and just being aware of where you are in that group. For example, you're not going to make any friends if you start half wheeling. So if you're just sort of pushing the pace, riding just in front of the person next to you, and then at the other end, if you're following someone, make sure that your wheel is not overlapping theirs, because that's just a surefire way to have an accident happen. And sort of talking about the riding smoothly that Mark has already mentioned, it's really important that when you do brake, you let people know, so you sort of shout behind you if you're stopping. Try and do it just gradually, unless obviously it's a real emergency. And the same goes with just changing your pace generally. If you're going to be standing out of the saddle and suddenly getting out, then it might change your pace naturally, but just be aware of who's around you.
And finally, don't spit or snot rocket, at least when you're on the front of the group. Now, if you do need to do it, just slip to the back of the group. Trust me, no one enjoys a snot rocket at 30 kilometers an hour.
Now this is a key point when it comes to safety, communication. When you're riding in a group, you need to know what's going on in front of you, and the riders behind need to know what's going on as well. If you're new to group riding, you might be slightly surprised by various hand signals that are going to be pointing at things, but they'll usually come with verbal warnings as well. So people will be pointing out potholes or cars in the road that are coming up, and you'll need to learn some of these signals, but also, importantly, you need to learn how to do them yourself and make sure you pass this information on. So those riders at the front, it's their key responsibility to make sure the riders at the back know what's coming up. On the surface, group riding can look a little bit daunting, but there's so much to get from it, and it can be really great fun. I think the main take home is just to remember to communicate with whoever you're riding with, and just be generally conscientious of others, and we'll all have a good time.
Yeah, I absolutely love group rides, not only just for the social aspect, but time just passes so quickly.
It does.
And also cafe stops, so
great. Yeah, we should have incorporated that, shouldn't we?
Anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. If so, please do give it a thumbs up, give it a like. Don't forget to give GTN a follow over on social media. And if you're not doing so already, give us a subscribe just down below.